The 1970s changed television forever, but not every hit survived. What about the 10 shows buried so deep they're almost erased from memory? Why were they lost, and what makes us still long for them? Saturday mornings in the 1970s had a magical formula. Kids would grab their cereal bowls, plant themselves in front of the TV, and escape into worlds where dinosaurs roamed and time portals opened with a flash of light. Land of the Lost delivered exactly that kind of adventure every single week. The Marshall family's accidental trip through a dimensional gateway wasn't just another kids' show premise, it was pure escapist gold. Will, Holly, and their dad, Rick, found themselves trapped in a bizarre world where T-Rex stomped around, monkey-like Pakuni spoke in broken English, and those terrifying lizard creatures called Sleestaks hissed their way through ancient temples. The show's creators didn't mess around when it came to making things look real either. Stop-motion animation brought every monster to life with painstaking detail. Each dinosaur movement required hundreds of tiny adjustments to miniature models. The Sleestaks, with their glowing red eyes and silver scales, became the stuff of childhood nightmares and dreams. These weren't cheap rubber suits. They were carefully crafted creatures that moved with genuine menace. But the real hook went deeper than just cool monsters. Ancient pylons scattered across the land controlled everything from weather to time itself. Crystals powered mysterious technology that the Marshalls barely understood. Every episode promised new discoveries about this lost civilization, and kids ate it up. The show treated young audiences like they could handle complex ideas about parallel dimensions and alien science. Then there's that theme song. Even decades later, people can hum those opening notes without thinking twice. Marshall, Will, and Holly, on a routine expedition, became as recognizable as any pop hit of the era. The series proved that Saturday morning television could be ambitious and smart while still delivering the thrills kids craved. Its blend of family adventure, cutting-edge effects, and genuine mystery solving created something special that fans still talk about today. While dinosaurs and interdimensional travel captured imaginations on land, another Croft creation was making waves underwater with a completely different kind of family-friendly monster story. What happens when two brothers discover a friendly sea monster and decide to keep it as their secret pet? Well, you get one of the most beloved Saturday morning shows of the 1970s. Sigmund and the Sea Monsters turned every kid's fantasy of having an impossible friend into pure television magic. The Croft brothers knew exactly what they were doing when they created Sigmund. This wasn't just another puppet show, it was childhood wish fulfillment at its finest. Two regular kids, Johnny and Scott, stumble across this adorable sea creature who's been kicked out of his own family for being too nice. Makes sense, right? His brothers and cousins are mean, scary monsters, but Sigmund just wants to be friendly and eat fish sticks. The puppet work was absolutely incredible for its time. Sid and Marty Krofft had already proven themselves masters of bringing fabric and foam to life, but Sigmund felt different. He had personality. Those big googly eyes and that goofy grin made him instantly lovable. Kids didn't just watch Sigmund, they wanted to take him home. Then there were the villains. Sigmund's sea monster family, led by the terrifying Sweet Mama and Big Daddy Ooze, provided just the right amount of scary without giving anyone nightmares. The underwater caves where they lived looked like something from a fever dream, complete with seaweed curtains and coral furniture. But the real magic happened when these worlds collided. The normal suburban life of the boys meeting the bizarre underwater kingdom of the sea monsters. The show only ran for 2 seasons, but its impact lasted decades. The silly humor, the genuine friendship between the boys and their monster buddy, and those unforgettable puppet designs created something special. Every episode delivered the same message. Friendship comes in all shapes and sizes, even if your friend happens to be a rejected sea monster with a serious case of hiccups. Speaking of shows that mix the ordinary with the extraordinary, another forgotten gem took viewers on an even wilder ride through time itself. Time travel shows usually throw characters into the past or future, but what if you could visit parallel worlds where history went completely sideways? That's exactly what happened in Fantastic Journey, where a diverse group of travelers found themselves bouncing between dimensions like cosmic pinballs. The premise was wild even by 1970 standards. After their boat gets caught in a strange storm, the survivors wash up on an island that exists outside normal time and space. Each area they explore represents a different era or alternate reality. One week they're dodging medieval knights, the next they're dealing with futuristic societies that make Star Trek look quaint. What made this show special wasn't just the trippy concept. The cast included characters from different time periods who'd gotten stuck during their own journeys. You had a scientist from 1977, a guy from the 1960s, someone from the far future, and even a person from Atlantis. Makes sense, right? It was like the ultimate support group for displaced time travelers. But here's where things get interesting. The show tackled serious ethical questions that most sci-fi avoided. Should you interfere with a society's natural development? What happens when technology advances too quickly? These weren't just adventure stories with laser guns and rubber monsters. The special effects were ambitious for television, even if they look charming now. The real magic happened in the writing room, where scripts explored complex ideas about human nature and progress. Unfortunately, the network pulled the plug after just one season, leaving viewers with a massive cliffhanger and tons of unanswered questions. Fans have been speculating about those loose plot threads for decades. The show's concept feels incredibly modern today, when every movie seems to involve multiple universes and alternate timelines. Science fiction television has finally caught up to what Fantastic Journey was attempting in 1977. Speaking of shows that were ahead of their time, let's talk about a space comedy that dared to make fun of the sci-fi boom itself. While everyone was obsessing over serious space operas in the late 1970s, one show dared to ask the most important question: what if the heroes of the galaxy were complete idiots? Quark launched in 1978 with a premise so ridiculous, it was brilliant. Adam Quark, played by Richard Benjamin, wasn't saving the universe from evil empires. He was emptying their trash cans. The show followed Quark and his misfit crew aboard a garbage scow, cleaning up after more important spaceships. Think of it as Sanford and Son meets Star Wars, except Quark's junkyard happened to be the entire galaxy. His crew included identical twins, one a clone of the other, though nobody could tell which was which. There was also an emotionless science officer who made Spock look warm and fuzzy, plus a walking plant creature who communicated mostly through interpretive dance. What made Quark special wasn't just its willingness to mock everything sacred about science fiction. The writing was surprisingly sharp. While other shows took themselves deadly seriously, Quark understood something crucial about space adventures. Most of them were pretty silly when you really thought about them. Why do aliens always speak perfect English? How do spaceships make whooshing sounds in the vacuum of space? The show gleefully pointed out these absurdities while creating its own brand of cosmic chaos. Richard Benjamin brought a neurotic, everyman quality to his space janitor that made him instantly lovable. Quark wasn't a dashing hero or a brilliant scientist. He was just a guy trying to do his job without getting vaporized, which happened more often than you'd expect in waste management. The special effects budget was clearly whatever loose change the producers found between their couch cushions, but that somehow added to the charm. Rubber monster suits and cardboard spaceships felt perfectly at home in a universe where the main character specialized in galactic garbage collection. Unfortunately, Quark only lasted 8 episodes before getting canceled faster than you could say trash compactor. But here's where things get interesting. Because while this space comedy was taking its final bow, Saturday morning television was about to launch its own brand of cosmic adventure. Saturday mornings in 1978 got a serious upgrade when Jason of Star Command blasted onto screens everywhere. Kids who thought they'd seen everything suddenly found themselves glued to their TVs, watching space battles that looked like they belonged in actual movies. This wasn't some cheap knockoff riding the Star Wars wave. It was its own beast entirely. The show followed Commander Jason and his crew as they fought against the evil Dragos across the galaxy. But here's what made it special. Those spaceship models were absolutely incredible. We're talking about detailed miniatures that moved like real spacecraft, complete with laser battles that actually looked dangerous. The production team spent serious money making sure every explosion felt real. Then there's something most people forget. The female characters weren't just sitting around waiting to be rescued. Nicole Davidoff and other women in the cast were kicking butt and taking names long before it became trendy. They piloted ships, made tactical decisions, and saved the day just as often as Jason did. Pretty revolutionary stuff for the late 70s. Every episode ended with a cliffhanger that would drive kids absolutely crazy. You'd watch Jason's ship get surrounded by enemy fighters, then boom, to be continued next week. Parents probably got tired of hearing, but what happens next, for 7 straight days? The suspense was real, and it worked perfectly. The weird part is how quickly it disappeared from everyone's memory. Despite having production values that put many primetime shows to shame, Jason of Star Command vanished faster than a hyperdrive jump. Maybe it was too good for Saturday morning television. Maybe audiences weren't ready for space opera that took itself seriously while still being fun for kids. Today's streaming world would absolutely eat this up. With all our fancy CGI and unlimited budgets, imagine what a Jason of Star Command reboot could accomplish. The original showed that Saturday morning TV could be genuinely exciting and smart at the same time. Speaking of smart television that pushed boundaries, let's talk about a detective show that changed everything about who could be the hero. Detective shows in the 1970s followed a pretty predictable formula. Tough white guys solved crimes, cracked jokes, and drove fast cars. Then Teresa Graves kicked down the door as Christie Love, and television would never be quite the same. "You're under arrest, sugar," became more than just a catchphrase. It was a declaration that prime time had room for something completely different. Graves brought swagger, intelligence, and genuine attitude to a role that could have easily become a stereotype in lesser hands. The show premiered in 1974, right when audiences were hungry for fresh voices and new perspectives. Christie Love wasn't your typical TV cop. She went undercover in situations that male detectives simply couldn't handle. Her cases took her into worlds that other shows barely acknowledged existed. The writing tackled issues like drug trafficking, prostitution, and urban crime with a directness that made network executives nervous. But here's the thing. It worked because Graves made Christie feel real. The show's approach to action sequences was refreshingly different too. Christie used her wits more than her fists, though she could definitely handle herself in a fight. Her wardrobe became part of her detective toolkit, helping her blend into different environments and social circles. Fashion wasn't just style, it was strategy. Network politics killed the show after just 1 season. Controversial themes and groundbreaking casting apparently made some people uncomfortable. The cancellation left fans frustrated and wanting more adventures with their favorite undercover detective. Many episodes tackled social issues that other shows wouldn't touch for years. Teresa Graves deserved better treatment from the industry. Her performance proved that audiences were ready for diverse storytelling and complex characters who broke traditional molds. Christie Love influenced countless future shows featuring strong female leads and diverse casting choices. Today's streaming landscape would embrace Christie Love's bold approach. Contemporary audiences crave authentic characters who represent different backgrounds and experiences. The show's blend of crime solving and social commentary feels remarkably current. While detective shows evolved in many directions, none quite captured Christie's unique energy. But television wasn't done experimenting with unconventional storytelling approaches. Sometimes the most daring television comes from the most unexpected places. Hot L Baltimore took a Pulitzer Prize-winning play about misfits living in a crumbling hotel and somehow convinced ABC to put it on primetime TV in 1975. The results? Pure television chaos that lasted exactly 8 episodes. Here's where things get wild. The show featured characters that 1970s television had never really seen before. An aging prostitute trying to make ends meet. A gay couple navigating their relationship in an era when that was basically television suicide. Residents dealing with poverty, addiction, and dreams that had long since gone stale. This wasn't your typical family sitcom, and network executives probably had nightmares about the viewer complaints. But the weird part is how good it actually was. Creator Norman Lear, the guy behind All in the Family and The Jeffersons, knew how to blend serious social issues with genuine humor. The writing tackled subjects that most shows wouldn't touch with a 10-foot pole. Sex work wasn't treated as a punchline. The gay characters weren't stereotypes designed for cheap laughs. The hotel itself became almost like another character. Peeling wallpaper, broken elevators, and the constant threat of demolition created this perfect backdrop for stories about people society had forgotten. Each resident carried baggage that went way deeper than what you'd find in typical TV land. Then there's the cancellation story that still makes television historians shake their heads. Conservative groups went absolutely nuclear over the show's content. Advertisers started pulling out faster than you could say controversial. Network affiliates refused to air certain episodes. ABC basically threw in the towel after 2 months, leaving storylines hanging and characters without resolution. The cast included some genuinely talented actors who deserved better. James Cromwell, who'd later win an Oscar, played one of the hotel residents with a dignity that elevated every scene he touched. Looking back, Hot L Baltimore was probably just ahead of its time by about 30 years. Today's television landscape, where complex characters and difficult subjects dominate prestige TV, might have been the perfect home for these forgotten hotel residents. Speaking of shows that push boundaries in different ways, what happens when you mix teenage drama with rocket ships and throw in some life lessons? You get Space Academy, a show that turned Saturday mornings into intergalactic classrooms. These weren't your typical high school students dealing with pop quizzes and cafeteria food. Instead, they navigated asteroid fields while learning about friendship, responsibility, and the occasional alien encounter. The premise was brilliant in its simplicity. Young cadets trained at a futuristic space station, guided by Commander Gampu and his trusty robot sidekick Peepo. But here's the thing. While other shows just threw kids into space for cheap thrills, Space Academy actually cared about education. Episodes tackled real scientific concepts, ethical dilemmas, and moral choices that made kids think beyond the flashy special effects. Speaking of effects, they were pretty impressive for a show filmed on what was probably a shoestring budget. The miniature spacecraft looked convincing enough to make young viewers believe they were watching real space missions. And Peepo, that little robot, became an instant favorite, proving that you didn't need fancy CGI to create memorable characters. Then there's the educational angle that nobody talks about enough. This show was sneaking STEM concepts into Saturday morning entertainment decades before anyone coined the term edutainment. Kids learned about gravity, space physics, and problem solving without realizing they were getting schooled. Pretty clever, right? The cast brought genuine chemistry to their roles, making the space station feel like a real community. Jonathan Harris, famous for his villainous Dr. Smith in Lost in Space, surprised everyone by playing the wise, grandfatherly Commander Gampu. His transformation from space villain to beloved mentor showed serious acting range. But like so many ambitious shows of that era, Space Academy vanished too quickly. One season wasn't nearly enough to explore all the possibilities of this cosmic classroom concept. The brief run left young fans wanting more adventures, more lessons, and more time with characters who had become their spacefaring friends. While Space Academy was teaching kids to reach for the stars, another show was keeping families grounded in very different territory. The Fitzpatricks showed something television rarely bothered with in 1977. A real working-class family dealing with actual problems. No glamorous penthouses or perfect suburban lawns here. Just the Fitzpatricks of Flint, Michigan, trying to make ends meet while raising 4 kids who acted like actual kids. Mike Fitzpatrick worked construction. His wife Maggie kept the household running on a tight budget. Their teenagers, Sean, Jack, Maureen, and little Max, dealt with homework, part-time jobs, and the kind of sibling rivalry that felt genuine instead of manufactured for laughs. When Sean needed money for a date, he actually had to work for it. When Maureen wanted new clothes, the family budget became a real conversation. The show's creator understood something important. Most American families weren't living like the Bradys or the Waltons. They were somewhere in between, figuring things out paycheck by paycheck. The Fitzpatricks captured that middle ground perfectly, showing parents who sometimes made mistakes and kids who didn't always learn their lessons in 30 minutes. What made it special was the honesty. Dad came home tired from physical work. Mom juggled a dozen responsibilities without hired help. The kids argued over chores, borrowed each other's stuff without asking, and dealt with the awkwardness of growing up in a house where privacy was limited and patience sometimes ran thin. But here's the thing about real families. They stick together when it matters. The Fitzpatricks showed that love doesn't always look pretty or come with perfect dialogue. Sometimes it's just showing up, doing your part, and knowing someone has your back even when money's tight and tempers are shorter than they should be. The series lasted only 1 season, which meant most viewers never discovered this gem of authentic family television. Networks seemed more interested in fantasy families than real ones. Yet those who remember the Fitzpatricks often mention how refreshing it felt to see their own lives reflected on screen without judgment or forced drama. Television moved toward bigger spectacles and shinier families, leaving behind shows that dared to celebrate ordinary people living ordinary lives extraordinarily well. When Saturday Night Fever hit theaters in 1977, disco wasn't just music anymore. It became a lifestyle. Studios scrambled to capture that lightning in a bottle, and ABC decided they needed their own slice of the disco pie. Enter Makin' It, a show that tried to bottle up all that glittery polyester magic and pour it straight into America's living rooms. The premise was simple enough. Billy Minucci, played by David Naughton, worked at his family's restaurant by day and transformed into a dancing king by night. Sound familiar? Well, it should. The show borrowed heavily from Saturday Night Fever's playbook, right down to the Brooklyn setting and working-class family dynamics. But here's the twist. They cranked up the wholesome factor and dialed down the grittiness. What made this show truly memorable wasn't the dancing or the drama. It was that theme song. Makin' It by David Naughton himself climbed all the way to number 5 on the Billboard Hot 100. The irony? The song outlived the show by decades. People still remember those lyrics, even if they can't recall a single episode plot. The show captured something special about late 70s culture. Every episode dripped with disco balls, platform shoes, and that unmistakable era when everyone thought they could dance like John Travolta. The nightclub scene sparkled with authentic period detail, from the music to the moves to those unforgettable outfits that somehow made sense at the time. But Makin' It suffered from terrible timing. By 1979, disco backlash was building. The infamous Disco Demolition Night at Comiskey Park happened right around the show's premiere. America was starting to turn its back on the very culture the show celebrated. Despite lasting only one season, the series became a time capsule. It preserved a moment when disco ruled everything, when dancing felt revolutionary, and when Saturday nights meant something magical. Today's viewers, hungry for that kind of pure, uncomplicated fun, often wonder what television would look like with that same sparkle and energy. Sometimes the best shows are the ones that remind us how to simply enjoy ourselves.